The fluorescent lights of the Anderson County Courthouse buzzed overhead as Emily Thompson sat rigidly in the wooden chair, her hands folded neatly on the scarred table before her. The courtroom smelled of old paper and broken promises, much like her 12-year marriage to Jack Harlan, who now sat across the aisle with his expensive lawyer Marcus Webb in a smirk that made her stomach turn. Jack leaned back in his chair, his designer suit probably costing more than what he claimed she deserved in the settlement. He whispered something to Marcus, and they both glanced her way with barely concealed contempt. Emily wore a simple gray dress from a thrift store, her hair pulled into a modest bun, playing the part she had carefully crafted over the past year. Judge Patricia Morrison entered, and everyone stood. Emily's heart pounded, but her face remained serene. Marcus Webb stood first, his voice booming through the small courtroom as he began his opening statement about how Emily had been nothing but a burden on his client's entrepreneurial aspirations. "Your Honor, my client Jack Harlan gave this woman everything," Marcus declared, gesturing dramatically toward Emily. "He provided a home, food security, while he worked tirelessly to build his businesses. And what did she do? She sat at home, contributing nothing to their household but complaints and demands." Emily felt the familiar sting of tears threatening, but she blinked them away. Her lawyer, David Chen, a court-appointed attorney who seemed perpetually exhausted, barely objected to the character assassination unfolding before them. The truth was, David didn't know who she really was. Nobody in this town did. Jack took the stand, his confidence radiating through every calculated movement. "Your Honor, I supported Emily for over a decade," he began with fake emotion. "I poured everything into my businesses, and she never believed in me, never encouraged me, just spent my money and complained when things got tight." Emily's jaw clenched. Jack had indeed started multiple businesses, each one failing spectacularly. What he conveniently forgot was that Emily had been the one working night shifts as a waitress during the first 5 years keeping them afloat, when his coffee shop burned through their savings. She had been the one who silently paid off his business debts with money she claimed came from her deceased grandmother's estate. In reality, that money came from her secret accounts from the tech empire she had been building in the shadows under the pseudonym Victoria Sterling. Marcus continued his assault. "Mrs. Thompson has no job skills, no education beyond high school, no assets of her own. My client is willing to offer her $15,000 to help her transition into independent living. But given her complete lack of contribution to the marriage, he believes this is more than generous." A woman in the gallery, Emily recognized her as Jack's mother, dabbed her eyes as if witnessing a great tragedy. Marcus produced documents showing their bank statements, the mortgage Jack had taken on their home, his business loans, all painting a picture of a man drowning in debt, trying to support a useless wife. What those documents didn't show were the anonymous investments that had saved 2 of Jack's ventures, the mysterious payments that had kept their home from foreclosure 3 times, the carefully hidden money trail that led back to Emily's offshore accounts. She had protected him even as he belittled her every single day, telling her she would be nothing without him. Judge Morrison looked at Emily with something resembling pity. "Mrs. Thompson, does your attorney have any evidence to counter these claims?" David Chen shuffled through his papers, looking defeated. "Your Honor, my client requests a fair division of marital assets in alimony based on the 12 years she dedicated to supporting her husband's career aspirations." Jack actually laughed out loud, causing the judge to shoot him a warning glance, but the damage was done. The entire courtroom saw him as the victim of a gold-digging housewife. Emily felt the heat of shame crawl up her neck, not because his words were true, but because she had allowed this narrative to exist, had played this role so convincingly. The hearing continued for another hour, with Marcus presenting witness after witness. Emily sat through it all, her expression neutral, her secret burning like a coal in her chest, waiting for the right moment to ignite, but not yet, not until she was ready. As Judge Morrison called for a recess, Emily stood and walked past Jack, who deliberately knocked his briefcase into her path. Careful, Emily. Wouldn't want you to break something else you can't afford to replace. She stepped over the briefcase without acknowledgement and pushed through the courtroom doors into the corridor, her composure finally cracking as she leaned against the cool marble wall. 12 years of her life invested in a man who saw her as nothing more than an accessory to discard when convenient. Emily Thompson. She turned at the sound of her name, her breath catching in her throat as she faced a man she hadn't seen in 15 years. Ryan Caldwell stood before her, tall, with warm brown eyes and silver threading through his dark hair. He wore a tailored navy suit and carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had nothing to prove. Ryan, his name barely audible. I heard about your case, he said, his voice gentle. I'm in town visiting my parents, and I couldn't help but notice your hearing listed on the docket. Emily, what's happening in there is wrong. I'm a litigation attorney now, specializing in family law. Let me help you. Part 2. Secrets Revealed. Emily stared at Ryan Caldwell, unable to process his sudden appearance. The fluorescent lights of the courthouse corridor seemed to brighten, as if his presence alone could chase away the darkness. He looked at her with those same warm brown eyes that had once promised her the world before life had taken them down different paths. Ryan, I don't understand, her voice barely steady. Why would you want to help me after all these years? He stepped closer, his expression serious. Emily, I sat in the back of that courtroom for the last hour. What I witnessed was character assassination, not justice. The woman I knew 15 years ago was brilliant, ambitious, full of fire. I need to know what happened to her. Before Emily could answer, the courtroom doors burst open, and Jack emerged with Marcus Webb, both men laughing. Jack's expression changed when he saw Emily talking to Ryan, his eyes narrowing with immediate suspicion. Well, Jack said, sauntering over. Emily making new friends already. Didn't take you long to find another man to leech off of. Ryan's jaw tightened. Jack Harlan. I'm Ryan Caldwell, attorney at law, and I'm considering representing Mrs. Thompson in this proceeding. Your current approach seems to forget that marriage is a partnership, not a charity case. Marcus Webb stepped forward. The case is already in motion, Mr. Caldwell, and frankly, my client has demonstrated that Mrs. Thompson brought nothing of value to the marriage. Nothing of value, Ryan repeated with controlled anger. $15,000 after 12 years, that's insulting. Jack's face reddened. Emily can't afford a real lawyer anyway, so unless you're offering your services for free, you're wasting everyone's time. Actually, Ryan said smoothly, I am offering my services because I believe in fighting for what's right. Emily, if you'll have me, I'd like to represent you when we reconvene. Marcus laughed outright. Mr. Caldwell, this case is open and shut. Mrs. Thompson has no hidden assets, no secret income. She is exactly what she appears to be. Ryan smiled. Mr. Webb, I built my career on cases where things are not what they appear. Shall we let the judge decide? Jack grabbed Emily's arm roughly. We need to talk, now. Emily yanked her arm free. Don't touch me, Jack. We have nothing to discuss. Ryan stepped between them. Mr. Harlan, I suggest you step back. Any further contact should go through proper legal channels. As Jack and Marcus walked away, Ryan turned to Emily. I need you to be completely honest with me. Is there anything you're not telling me about your situation? Anything that could help your case? Emily looked into Ryan's eyes, seeing the same integrity that had made her fall in love with him 15 years ago. Ryan, there are things you don't know, things nobody in this town knows, but I can't tell you yet, not until the time is right. Emily, Ryan said gently, I can't help you if you won't trust me. It's not about trust, she replied. It's about timing. Ryan, if you really want to help me, then trust me when I say everything will be revealed when it needs to be. Ryan studied her face. You have something planned, don't you? Something big. Emily allowed herself a small smile. Let's just say Jack Harlan is about to learn a very expensive lesson about underestimating people. That evening, Emily opened the door to her modest apartment above Henderson's hardware store. Ryan stood in the doorway, looking concerned. She let him in and immediately went to her bedroom, returning with a silver laptop that looked decidedly out of place among her thrift store furnishings. "Ryan, what I'm about to show you stays between us until the final hearing," she said, setting the laptop on the coffee table. She opened the laptop and pulled up screen after screen of financial documents, bank accounts, investment portfolios, revenue reports from companies Ryan recognized. His eyes widened. "Emily, what am I looking at?" "You're looking at Victoria Sterling's financial empire," Emily said quietly. 15 years ago, when you and I were dating, I started teaching myself coding. Remember, I was obsessed with computers." Ryan nodded slowly. "I remember your father hated it, said it wasn't appropriate, drove me away because I wasn't good enough for his daughter." "My father was controlling," Emily said. "He made me marry Jack, the son of his business partner. I was young and broken after losing you, so I said yes. But 2 years into my marriage, I realized I had a choice. I could let my life be defined by their expectations, or I could build something. In secret." She pulled up a screen showing Sterling Solutions' homepage. "I started freelancing as a coder under the name Victoria Sterling. I built websites, designed apps, created software solutions. I worked every night while Jack slept, every moment I could steal. Over 10 years, I built a company worth $47 million. Ryan sat back, stunned. "How did you keep this hidden?" "Very carefully," Emily replied. "I used offshore accounts, shell companies, a P.O. box in the next town. I was meticulous because I knew if Jack found out, he would either destroy it or use it as permission to fail harder. All those times, Jack's businesses were saved by my grandmother's inheritance. That was me. I saved him over and over, and he never questioned it because his ego wouldn't allow him to imagine his uneducated housewife could be capable of anything." Ryan paced the small room. "Emily, you could destroy him financially with this. Why let him humiliate you first?" "Because Jack's ego is his weakness," Emily said coldly. "He needed to feel like the victor, needed everyone to see him as the successful businessman. I let him build that narrative, and now when I reveal the truth, the fall will be so much harder." She pulled up more files. "There's something else. Jack has been having an affair with his business partner, Melissa Chen, for 3 years. They've been embezzling money from his current startup, planning to leave me with nothing. I've known for 8 months. I've been gathering evidence." Ryan looked at her with new understanding. "You're not a victim, Emily. You're a strategist." "I'm someone who got tired of being underestimated," Emily replied, "and I'm ready to show everyone exactly who they've been dismissing. I need you to help me orchestrate the reveal in court in front of everyone." They worked through the night, organizing documents. Around midnight, Ryan reached across the table, taking her hand. "Emily, why did you really let me go 15 years ago?" "Ryan, when my father made me choose, I was terrified. I had no money, no skills, no way to support myself. I didn't believe in myself enough to take that leap with you. I've regretted it every day since." "The woman I've seen tonight," Ryan said softly, "building an empire, outmaneuvering everyone. You're the strongest person I know. You always were." Their eyes locked, and Emily leaned forward. Ryan met her halfway, their lips touching in a kiss that felt like coming home, like second chances. When they pulled apart Emily, "We should probably keep this professional until after the hearing." "Probably," Ryan agreed. "But after this is over, I want to explore this. I want to see if we can find our way back to each other." "I want that too," Emily said. "But first, let's make sure Jack Harlan learns never to underestimate Emily Thompson." Part 3. The Final Hearing. 3 days later, the courthouse was packed. Word had spread about the divorce case, and curious spectators filled the gallery. Emily walked through the whispers, wearing her thrift store dress, her head held high, as she took her seat beside Ryan. Jack sat smugly beside Melissa Chen, who wore an expensive red suit. Marcus Webb shuffled his papers, preparing his victory speech. Judge Morrison entered and called the court to order. "Mr. Webb, closing arguments," the judge said. Marcus stood with false humility. "Your Honor, this case is straightforward. My client supported a woman who contributed nothing. We asked the court to grant the divorce and award Mrs. Thompson $15,000. Judge Morrison turned to Ryan. "Mr. Caldwell, do you have anything to add?" Ryan stood his presence commanding. "Your Honor, I have evidence that will fundamentally change every assumption made during these proceedings. Emily Thompson is not who this court believes her to be. I request permission to call her to the stand." Marcus jumped up. "Your Honor, this is irregular. Discovery is closed." "The evidence comes from Mrs. Thompson herself," Ryan said. "Information she was under no legal obligation to disclose until now. Your Honor, may I call Emily Thompson?" Judge Morrison nodded. "Mrs. Thompson, take the stand." Emily walked to the witness box, placed her hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth. She sat down, meeting Jack's confused gaze with steady calm. Ryan approached Mrs. Thompson. "Please state your full legal name." "Emily Victoria Thompson." "Do you have any other names you conduct business under?" "Yes, Victoria Sterling." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Jack's face went pale. Marcus stood. "Your Honor, I object. This is theatrics." Ryan handed documents to the judge. "Your Honor, what you're looking at proves that Emily Thompson and Victoria Sterling are the same person. Victoria Sterling is the founder and CEO of Sterling Solutions, a technology company that has generated over $47 million in revenue over the past 10 years. The courtroom erupted. Judge Morrison banged her gavel. Jack sat frozen. "That's impossible." "Mrs. Thompson," Ryan continued, "can you explain how you built this company?" Emily took a deep breath. "I taught myself coding 13 years ago. I started freelancing under a pseudonym because I knew if my husband discovered it, he would try to control it. I built Sterling Solutions in secret, working nights and weekends." Marcus was sweating. "Your Honor, Mrs. Thompson failed to disclose these assets. That's fraud." "Actually," Ryan said, "Mrs. Thompson was under no obligation to disclose assets in a separate business entity that predated the marriage and was never commingled with marital property, except when she chose to help her husband. On 17 occasions, I transferred money from my business, totaling $230,000, to save Jack's businesses, prevent foreclosure, and cover his debts. I told him it was inheritance money. He never questioned it." Jack found his voice. Desperately, "This is insane. Emily, you worked as a waitress. You couldn't have built a tech company." Ryan displayed more documents. "I have testimony from 12 clients, contracts signed with her digital signature, tax records verified by the IRS. Victoria Sterling is real, and she is Emily Thompson." "Your Honor," Ryan continued, "if Jack knew nothing about his wife's fortune, how do we explain this loan application where he listed household income as $150,000 when his business only made $32,000? Where did he think the rest came from?" "Jack, I assumed Emily had a trust fund. She always had money when we needed it." "So you knew she had money?" Ryan pressed. "You just didn't care to ask because it was convenient. You were happy to spend it, but never acknowledged your wife might be the source." Ryan pulled up new documents. "Your Honor, there's one more matter. Jack Harlan has been conducting an affair with Melissa Chen for 3 years, and they've been embezzling $83,000 from his company into a secret offshore account, money from outside investors." Melissa Chen stood. "That's a lie." "Is it?" Ryan showed bank records. "These transfers prove it. I've already forwarded this to the district attorney." Judge Morrison looked thunderous. "Mr. Harlan, did you embezzle from your company?" "It was my company," Jack said weakly. "No, it was investor money fraudulently diverted," Ryan corrected. Judge Morrison looked at Emily. "Mrs. Thompson, you've known about this for how long?" 8 months, Your Honor," Emily replied. "I discovered the affair and embezzlement, and I documented everything. I waited. Why? The judge asked. Emily met Jack's eyes. Because I needed everyone to see who he really is. For 12 years, Jack made me feel worthless while using my money to fund his dreams. I needed him to humiliate me first. So when the truth came out, no one could deny what kind of man he is. Judge Morrison sat back processing. This is extraordinary, Mr. Harlan. You portrayed your wife as worthless when she was your primary financial support. You humiliated her publicly while stealing from investors. I'm ruling as follows. The divorce is granted. Emily Thompson retains all Sterling Solutions assets. Jack Harlan receives nothing and must repay $200,000 with interest. Mrs. Thompson is awarded the marital home as compensation. This case is concluded. I suggest you secure criminal defense counsel. Mr. Harlan, we're adjourned.